What if your own family loved your money more than your life? One wealthy man decided to test their hearts. He staged his own funeral, only to discover a truth that shattered him forever. Chief Olumide sat by the balcony of his mansion as the evening breeze brushed against his wrinkled face. Though his home stood tall like a palace, and his wealth stretched across businesses, lands, and estates, his heart was heavy. His wife, Clara, had long stopped showing him affection. His children, Kunle, Bisi, and Dayo, only came around when they needed money. In his loneliness, he often found himself speaking to the walls. Do they love me at all? Or is it just my riches they see? That doubt ate deep into him. One night he overheard his children arguing in the sitting room. Kunle shouted, "Once Baba is gone, I'll take the company shares. No one will stop me." Bisi snapped back, "Not if I get hold of his documents first." Dayo, the youngest, laughed mockingly. "You two can fight, but I will sell part of the estate and enjoy life abroad." Dear viewers, betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. It comes from the people closest to your heart. Now let me ask you, if you can feel Chief Olumide's pain and still walk away without subscribing, aren't you betraying this story too? Don't do what Olumide's children did. Click subscribe now, and if you won't subscribe, go to the comments and explain why you are ghosting this channel and want to be like Olumide's family. Their voices cut through him like sharp knives. He stood frozen in the shadows, realizing they already counted him as a father who has passed away. That night, Chief Olumide made a chilling decision. He would fake his passing away. Only then would he see who truly loved him, and who only desired his wealth. The following morning, Olumide summoned his lawyer, Mr. Adebanjo, a man who had served him loyally for over 30 years. In a quiet study, away from the ears of his family, he revealed his strange plan. At first, the lawyer gasped, "Sir, to fake passing away is dangerous. What if the truth ruins your children forever?" But Olumide shook his head slowly. "I must know before my soul departs this world. Let them reveal their true hearts." Reluctantly, Adebanjo agreed. Together they crafted the deception, an announcement of sudden passing away by heart attack, a coffin to be brought, a body double arrangement, and Olumide hidden safely in a secluded guest house. Even the family doctor was sworn to secrecy. Days later, the news spread across town. Chief Olumide has passed away. His mansion became a flood of visitors. The air was filled with chants of mourning, but behind many veils of tears, eyes glittered with greed. His wife cried the loudest, rolling on the ground, screaming, "My husband is gone." But Olumide, watching secretly through hidden cameras, noticed how quickly her wails turned into whispered questions. Where are the bank keys? Where are the documents? It was just the beginning. The coffin arrived, polished mahogany with golden handles. Inside, instead of Olumide's body, it was filled with sandbags wrapped in cloth. His relatives, dressed in black lace, filled the grand hall. Songs of sorrow echoed, but the atmosphere soon shifted. Kunle, the eldest son, stood tall among the guests, chest out like a rooster. "Now, as the first son, everything falls under my control. All decisions will go through me," he declared. Guests nodded politely, but whispers began. Did he not just bury his father? Why is he already talking of control? Meanwhile, Bisi slipped quietly away. She entered her father's private study, rummaging through drawers and shelves, hunting for the property deeds. She muttered bitterly, "Where did the old man hide them? He cannot cheat me while he lost his life." In another corner, their uncle, Chief Adeyemi, sat with a smirk, whispering to another relative, "The old fool is gone. Now we can finally take our share." But among the crowd, one figure knelt quietly beside the coffin, Eve, the maid. Tears streamed down her face as she placed her hand on the box. "Baba, you were kind to me when no one else was. May your soul rest in peace." Unlike the others, she prayed all night, refusing food or rest. And though the hall buzzed with greed, her quiet grief pierced Olumide's heart the most. As the second day of the funeral approached, the mansion transformed into a theater of hypocrisy. Clara, Olumide's wife, gathered her friends in the inner chamber. They whispered about fashion, wealth, and inheritance, as though the man lying passed away had never shared her bed. "At least now, Clara, you will have access to everything," one of her friends said with a grin. Clara smiled faintly. "Yes, it is time I finally enjoy life. I have suffered enough." Those words were a dagger to Olumide's chest as he watched from the hidden guest house. His heart trembled, not from passing away but from betrayal. Meanwhile, Kunle organized a private meeting with business associates in one of the side rooms. "Gentlemen, now that I am the new head, we shall expand into new ventures. Forget about mourning. Let us talk profits." They toasted to his leadership, while his father's coffin still lay in the hall. Elsewhere, Bissy continued to prowl through the mansion, opening safes and tearing through files, desperate to secure her share. Dio, the carefree one, threw a party that same night with his friends, drinking and celebrating. "Life is short. Baba's money is long. Let us enjoy," he laughed. The mansion was filled with false sorrow but real greed. Only Ife, weary from hours of kneeling, remained beside the coffin, whispering prayers. And it was then Olumide's anger began to turn into resolve. He would not let their betrayal go unpunished. By the third morning, the funeral had turned into open rivalry. Relatives argued in corners about land, properties, and businesses. Some fought over who would take control of his farms. Others whispered about dividing his houses. The air smelled less of grief and more of greed. Olumide, sitting in his hidden guest house with Mr. Adebanjo, clenched his fists. "They have shown themselves clearly. They did not even wait for my body to cool." Adebanjo, shaking his head, replied, "Sir, I warned you, but I never imagined it would be this bad." Just then, the lawyer handed him photographs taken secretly of Bisi stealing files, Kunle making grand declarations, and Clara laughing with her friends. Olumide's eyes burned with fury, but when he saw the last photo, Ife, sleeping by the coffin with her head resting on it, clutching her Bible, tears rolled down his cheeks. "This girl, who has nothing, loves me more than my own relatives." At that moment, Olumide made a new decision. Not only would he expose his family's greed, but he would also strip them of their inheritance and reward the one person who truly cared. The plan for his return was set. On the fourth day of the funeral, the tension in the mansion was thick like smoke. Kunle and Bisi clashed openly in front of the guests. "As the first son, the company is mine. Stop fighting fate," Kunle declared, pounding the table. Bisi's eyes blazed with fury. "Do not think you will cheat me, Kunle. I will drag you to court if I must." Their voices carried through the hall, and the mourners whispered among themselves, shaking their heads. Dio staggered in, drunk from the night before, laughing loudly. "Both of you are fools. While you argue, I have already started spending Baba's money." He threw a wad of cash into the air, and his friends cheered. Their uncle, Chief Adeyemi, stood and scolded them. "Have you no shame? Your father is lying here and all you do is fight." But deep down, even he had his own agenda, scheming quietly to take over the cocoa farm. All the while, Clara, their mother, sat silently in a corner, sipping wine with her friends as though everything was normal. In the middle of this chaos, only Eve's quiet sobbing echoed in the background. Kneeling beside the coffin, her lips moved in prayer. "Lord, grant him eternal rest." In the hidden guest house, Olumide watched the live stream of his family's disgrace. Betrayal begins with silence. If you keep quiet and leave without subscribing, you're no different from Olumide's family walking away like nothing happened. Subscribe immediately, or enter comments and tell us why you choose betrayal. His chest tightened. They had not only failed the test, they had buried their own honor. That evening, Clara finally revealed her true colors. After dismissing her friends, She entered her late husband's room, opening wardrobe after wardrobe. She removed jewelry boxes, counted hidden bundles of cash, and even tried breaking into his safe. "At last," she whispered, "all this will be mine without anyone questioning me." Her greed knew no bounds, but little did she know, Olumide and Adebanjo had installed cameras in every corner of the mansion. Every act, every theft, every betrayal, all was being recorded. Meanwhile, Kunle went behind his siblings' backs to meet with the company board of directors. He stood tall, giving them a fake speech about continuity. "My father wanted me to succeed him. I will ensure this empire grows stronger." The board listened silently, though some looked uncomfortable. After the meeting, one whispered, "How can a son speak of business when his father is barely in the grave?" Elsewhere, Bisi's greed took a new shape. She called a dubious lawyer, asking him to forge documents that would give her rights to the family's Abuja estate. Every corner of the family reeked of betrayal. Only one corner of the mansion remained untainted, the coffin side, where Ife knelt with her Bible, still whispering soft prayers. By the 5th day, the entire city was talking. Rumors spread like wildfire. Chief Olumide's children are fighting already. His wife is looting his house. Even the funeral has turned into a marketplace. The respect the family once commanded was crumbling fast, but to them, reputation mattered little compared to the inheritance. Inside the mansion, the quarrels reached a boiling point. Kunle shoved Dio in front of guests, shouting, "You will not squander what I have built." Dio laughed, pushing him back. "What you have built. Everything here belongs to all of us." They nearly exchanged blows until relatives separated them. Bisi, meanwhile, accused Clara of stealing jewelry that she claimed belonged to her. "Mother, you are not the only wife in this world. That necklace should be mine." Clara hissed back, "Ungrateful child. I wore this before you were born." The hall became a circus. Guests left shaking their heads, muttering, "This family is cursed by greed." Hidden away, Olumide could no longer hold back his tears. He whispered to Adebanjo, "I thought I had raised them better, but they are vultures." Adebanjo replied softly, "Sir, sometimes truth is hidden until tested. Now you see their heart clearly." And with each passing hour, Olumide's resolve to rewrite his will grew stronger. That night, Olumide called Adebanjo to his side and said, "Tomorrow I shall return. They will see me alive, and the mask of their greed will shatter." Adebanjo cautioned him, "Prepare yourself, sir. Their reactions may not be what you expect. Some may faint, others may turn violent. But the truth must be revealed." Olumide nodded, his eyes burning with both sorrow and determination. Meanwhile, in the mansion, Ife fell asleep beside the coffin, her tears drying on her cheeks. In her dream, she saw Chief Olumide smiling at her, blessing her. She woke suddenly, clutching her Bible tighter. Little did she know, her loyalty and genuine love had already secured her a destiny greater than anything she had imagined. While the family plotted and fought, Ife, the least of them, was unknowingly chosen as heir to everything. The next morning, the hall filled once more with mourners. Choirs sang, drummers played softly, and relatives wailed loudly for the cameras. It was the grand day of the burial ceremony, when the coffin would be lowered into the earth. But just as the pastor raised his hands to pray, the doors of the hall flung open. Gasps erupted. A man in flowing white agbada stepped in, his presence commanding silence, his face unmistakable. It was Chief Olumide, alive, breathing, standing tall. For a moment, the hall froze in stunned disbelief. Some fainted, some screamed, some fell to their knees thinking they were seeing a ghost. Clara staggered back, wine glass slipping from her hand. Kunle's jaw dropped, his lips trembling. Bisi covered her face, ashamed. Dio whispered, "Impossible." "Baba?" The hall turned into chaos, but Olumide raised his hand, and the room fell silent. His voice thundered, I was never passed away. I only wanted to see your hearts. And now, I know the truth. The hall was frozen in silence as Chief Olumide stood before them, alive and breathing. His white agbada glowed under the chandelier, and his staff of office struck the marble floor with a sharp echo. The guests trembled, whispering, "Is he a ghost? Is this witchcraft?" Clara clutched her chest, her face pale. "Olumide? No. You have passed away." Kunle stepped back, shaking, his lips refusing to form words. Dio rubbed his eyes in disbelief. This must be a dream. But Olumide's deep voice thundered, silencing them all. "I am no ghost. I lived while you celebrated my passing away. I hid to see your hearts. And now I know who you truly are." His words cut like a blade. Some fell on their knees begging for mercy. Others stood frozen, trapped between guilt and fear. But Olumide's eyes, sharp and fiery, scanned the hall like a lion ready to pounce. Slowly, Olumide turned his gaze to Kunle, his eldest son. "Kunle!" His voice echoed, heavy with disappointment. "You, who should have been a leader. On the very first night, you boasted that you would seize control of the company. You gathered men in secret, plotting your rise. Tell me, son, is this how a child honors a father's memory?" Kunle's lips trembled. "Baba, I thought you were gone. I only wanted to protect the business." The crowd murmured in disgust. One old man shouted, "Protect? You were already calling yourself the new boss while his coffin was still warm." Olumide raised his hand for silence. "You have shown me your heart, Kunle, and it is filled with greed, not love. You have failed the test of blood." Kunle's knees buckled and he collapsed, weeping bitterly. But Olumide did not soften. His face was stone. Next, Olumide's eyes pierced through the crowd, finding Bisi. "And you, Bisi, my daughter, my jewel. I watched you creep into my study like a thief in the night. You tore through my files, searching for property deeds. You even went as far as forging documents to steal what was not yet yours. Daughter, did my love mean nothing to you?" Bisi burst into tears, shaking her head violently. "No, Baba. I was desperate. I didn't mean it." But the evidence was already known. Whispers filled the air. Forging documents? A daughter? Shame burned her face as relatives stared with disappointment. Olumide's voice dropped lower, heavy with sorrow. "You would rather rob a man who had passed away than honor your father. Your beauty is nothing if your soul is stained with greed." Bisi covered her face, sobbing uncontrollably. The hall grew tense as Olumide turned sharply to his youngest, Dio. "And you, my carefree son, while your siblings schemed, you disgraced my name. You drank, you celebrated, you wasted what you did not earn. On the very night of my passing away, you threw a party. Tell me, Dio, is this what sons do when their father is lowered into the ground?" Dio trembled, unable to meet his father's eyes. He stammered, I was afraid. I didn't know how to mourn." But before he could finish, a guest shouted angrily, "Afraid? You squandered wealth while your father's coffin was not yet buried." Murmurs of disgust rippled across the room. Dio covered his face with his palms, ashamed. Olumide's eyes burned into him. "Your laughter mocked my grave. Your pleasure spat upon my legacy. You are no son of honor." But the most crushing blow came when Olumide's gaze finally fell on Clara, his wife. The hall stiffened. Everyone knew what she had done, but none dared speak. Olumide's voice shook with a mixture of rage and sorrow. "Clara, wife of my youth." You wailed louder than all, rolling on the ground, pretending to mourn. But the moment the guest turned away, you raided my room. You stole jewelry. You counted hidden cash. You plotted to enjoy a life of luxury. Did my love mean so little? Did our years together count for nothing? Clara's knees gave way and she fell at his feet, trembling. "Olumide, please. I was weak. I thought you were gone." I was afraid of losing everything. But her words only drew gasps of disgust from the crowd. One older woman muttered, "A widow rejoicing at her husband's funeral? Tufiakwa." Olumide's eyes filled with tears. His voice remained unshaken. "You betrayed my heart, Clara. The one I trusted most became the sharpest knife in my back." Viewers, betrayal doesn't always come from strangers, it comes from the people closest to your heart. Now let me ask you, if you can feel Olumide's pain and still walk away without subscribing, aren't you betraying this story too? Don't do what Olumide's family did. Click subscribe now, and if you won't subscribe, go to the comments and explain why you are ghosting this channel and want to be like Olumide's family. The hall was silent, heavy with shame. Each betrayal had been dragged into the light, and the family stood exposed before all. The hall remained silent, the weight of Chief Olumide's words pressing down like a heavy storm. His children and wife knelt trembling, their shame written on their faces. But Olumide wasn't done. Slowly, he raised his hand, and Mr. Adebanjo, the loyal lawyer, stepped forward with a small black briefcase. He placed it on the table in front of everyone, opened it, and brought out a laptop and a projector. The guests whispered in confusion. "What is this? Why a laptop in a funeral hall?" Olumide's voice cut through the air. Words can be twisted, tears can be faked, but proof never lies. At that moment, Adebanjo pressed a button, and the projector lit up the wall of the grand hall. The first video appeared, Kunle on the night of the announcement of his father's passing away, standing boldly before business partners. His voice was clear. "Now that Baba is gone, I am the new head. All decisions go through me." The hall gasped. Kunle covered his face in shame as people shouted, "Ah, look at him. Not even buried, and already declaring himself boss?" Before Kunle could defend himself, the next clip played. It showed Bisi sneaking into her father's study, pulling drawers open, scattering documents across the floor. Her voice hissed angrily. "Where did he hide them? I must find the property deeds. He cannot cheat me when he's passed away." The crowd erupted in shock. "Jesus!" someone shouted. "His own daughter, turning the study upside down?" Bisi screamed and rushed toward the laptop, but Olumide's voice thundered, "Touch it, and I will disown you here and now." She froze, trembling, tears streaming down her cheeks. The recording ended with her calling a shady lawyer to prepare forged documents. The guests booed and hissed, muttering, "Shame. What a disgrace to womanhood." Next came Dio's turn. The projector flickered, showing a party in full swing. Music blasted, drinks flowed, and young men and women danced wildly. In the center of it all was Dio, his arms raised, laughing. His words boomed in the hall. "Life is short. Baba's money is long. Let us enjoy while it lasts." The hall shook with outrage. An elderly chief stood up and pointed at Dio. "You mocked your father's passing away. You celebrated while his coffin lay in this hall. Cursed is the child who laughs at his father's grave." Dio fell to his knees, shaking, his hands covering his ears as the hall roared in disgust. But the most shocking clip was yet to come. Clara's betrayal lit up the wall. The video showed her alone in Olumide's room, opening wardrobes, counting bundles of hidden cash, and slipping jewelry boxes into her bag. Her voice whispered, "At last, all this will be mine. I will finally live the life I deserve." The hall exploded in outrage. Women covered their mouths in shock. Men shook their heads bitterly. One old woman spat on the ground and cried out, "What kind of wife rejoices when her husband passed away? This is abomination." Clara collapsed on the floor, her hands trembling, her eyes darting around for sympathy. But no one moved to defend her. Her disgrace was complete, written on the wall for all to see. Finally, Olumide raised his staff again, and Adebanjo switched the footage one last time. The hall grew quiet, expecting another betrayal. But what they saw instead made many weep. It was Ife, the poor maid, kneeling by the coffin. Her voice was soft but steady. "Baba, you were kind to me when no one else was. May your soul rest in peace. Lord, keep him safe on the other side." The video showed her sleeping beside the coffin, her Bible clutched to her chest. The hall fell silent. Guests wiped their tears. Some whispered, "Look at the maid. She cried more than his own family." Olumide's eyes filled with tears as he turned toward his family. "Do you see? This girl who had nothing to gain loved me more than you who carried my blood. While you betrayed me, she prayed for me." His voice shook with emotion. "I know now where true love lives, and the reward of each heart shall be given." That's exactly what happens when you hear this story and don't act. If you betray the lesson by ignoring it, your silence becomes part of the betrayal. Prove you're different. Subscribe now or explain in the comments why you're comfortable with betrayal. The hall was deathly still, every eye fixed on Chief Olumide. His voice cut through the silence like thunder. "You all have seen the proof. You cannot deny it. You cannot twist it. Now as the living father you thought had passed away, I will deliver judgment." His words echoed, and even the walls seemed to tremble. Kunle, Bisi, Dio, and Clara clutched each other in fear. The guests sat wide-eyed, waiting for the hammer of truth to fall. Slowly, Olumide pointed his staff at Kunle. "You, my firstborn, the one who should have been my strength. Instead, you chose greed. You declared yourself head while my body lay in a coffin. You mocked my memory before my bones could even rest. For this, hear me clearly. You shall inherit nothing. Not a kobo, not a brick, not a plot of land. The company you thought was yours will never bear your name." Kunle screamed in anguish, falling to his knees. "Baba, please, do not take everything. At least leave me something." But Olumide turned his back, his voice firm. "You left me nothing in your heart. I leave you nothing in my will." Gasps filled the hall as Olumide's staff shifted toward Bisi. His eyes were cold, his face carved with sorrow. "Bisi, my daughter, my jewel, my pride. You were to be the one to carry my name with honor. Instead, you broke into my study like a thief. You schemed to forge documents, ready to rob even before my body touched the ground. For this, you too shall inherit nothing. The house you wanted will never be yours. The land you plotted for will remain forever out of your reach." Bisi wailed bitterly, throwing herself at her father's feet. "Please, Baba, forgive me. I was blind, I was foolish." But Olumide stepped back, shaking his head. "Love that only lives when money is present is not love at all. Your greed buried you alive." Her cries echoed, but no sympathy came. Then came Dio's turn. Olumide's staff pointed at him like a sword. "And you, Dio, my youngest, the child who should have carried my laughter, who should have eased my old age with joy. Instead, you brought disgrace. While the world thought have passed away, you partied, you drank, you mocked, you called my money long while my coffin was in this hall. You spat on my legacy." Dio fell flat on the floor, his tears soaking the marble. "Baba, I was foolish. I did not know how to mourn. Please do not curse me." But Olumide's voice was unyielding. "You cursed yourself when you danced on my grave. From today, you are cut off. Not a dime of my wealth will pass into your hands. Go and learn the value of sweat, for only then will you understand the pain of a father." The hall buzzed with murmurs. Many nodded in agreement, whispering, "He is right. A child without discipline is a curse." The hall's air grew heavy as Olumide's gaze finally turned to Clara. His chest rose and fell, his voice laced with betrayal deeper than any wound. "Clara, wife of my youth, the woman who shared my bed, who bore my children, I trusted you above all. But when you thought me gone, your tears were false. Behind closed doors, you raided my room. You stole jewelry, you counted money, you rejoiced at freedom." Clara collapsed, her head pressed to the ground. "Olumide, please. I was afraid. I thought life without you would be empty. I only wanted to secure myself." But Olumide's eyes burned with tears of rage. "Secure yourself? At the price of my dignity? At the shame of my memory? You betrayed not just me, but our vows. For this, Clara, you will have no share. From this day forward, you are a wife in name only. Everything you hoped to enjoy has been snatched from your hands." Clara screamed in agony as the crowd murmured, "Abomination! A wife who celebrates her husband passing away? Unheard of." Finally, Olumide raised his staff high, and the hall grew silent. His voice softened as he turned to the quiet figure kneeling by the coffin. Eve. Tears glistened in his eyes as he spoke. But among all the noise, one voice was true. Among all the tears, one was real. Eve, my maid, my daughter in spirit, you wept not for what you could gain, but for the love of a man who was kind to you. You prayed when others plotted. You mourned when others looted. For this, hear me today. From this day forward, you are no longer a servant. You are my daughter. All that I own, all that I have built, every house, every land, every business, every treasure, it is yours. Don't betray this story the way Olumide's family betrayed him. Hit that subscribe button right now. Or step into the comments and justify why you won't subscribe. But remember, always leave a mark. The hall erupted in chaos. Relatives screamed, children wailed, Clara fainted. Kunle shouted, "This cannot be. A maid?" Bisi cried out, "Never!" But Olumide's staff struck the ground with authority. "Silence! The will is sealed. The true heir of my empire is the one who loved me without greed." The crowd roared with shock, some clapping, others shaking their heads. But all knew the truth. The test was over and the results were final. The hall erupted into chaos. Kunle pounded the floor with his fists, his face twisted in rage. "Baba, you cannot do this. I am your son. She is just a maid." His voice cracked as tears rolled down his cheeks. But Olumide's staff struck the ground sharply. "Son without loyalty is nothing. You betrayed me while she honored me. That is the truth, and truth cannot be changed." Kunle lunged toward the coffin in madness, but two relatives restrained him, spitting in disgust. "You are a disgrace," one of them said, "a first son who could not wait for his father's bones to rest." Kunle slumped to the ground, broken, his pride shattered. Bisi's wailing filled the air. She tore at her clothes, crying out, "How can this be? How can I, a daughter of the house, lose everything to a servant?" She turned to the guests, hoping for pity. But the hall only shook their heads. A woman whispered, "A daughter who forges papers? Let her eat her shame." Another hissed, "She is not fit to inherit even a broomstick." Bisi crawled toward Olumide, clinging to his leg. "Baba, please, just one house, just one piece of land. Do not throw me away completely." Olumide's eyes were wet, but his voice was unyielding. "You threw yourself away the night you robbed my study. There is nothing left for you here." He pulled his leg free, and Bisi collapsed, sobbing in despair. Dio tried to laugh, but his voice cracked under the weight of shame. "So what? Money is not everything. I will survive without your wealth." But his trembling hands betrayed him. His friends, who had once celebrated with him, slipped quietly out of the hall, abandoning him. He was left alone, his face pale, his pride crushed. "Baba," he whispered, finally breaking. "I was lost. I thought life was only about enjoyment. Now I see my foolishness." But Olumide shook his head. "Foolishness has consequences, my son. You chose pleasure over respect. And now, pleasure is all you have left. Go and see if it can feed you." Dio's laughter dried in his throat, and he fell silent, realizing the emptiness of his soul. Clara, still kneeling, looked up with swollen eyes. "Olumide, I beg you, do not shame me before the world. I was weak, yes, but I am still your wife." Her voice cracked with desperation. The crowd murmured angrily. "What kind of wife steals from her husband's corpse?" someone shouted. "She does not deserve mercy," another added. Olumide's shoulders sagged, his face carved with deep sorrow. "Clara, I gave you love. I gave you trust. I gave you years of my life, and in return you celebrated my passing away. You betrayed the bond of marriage. For this you remain in my house only as the mother of my children. Beyond that, you are nothing." Clara screamed, her voice echoing like a wounded animal, but no sympathy came. Even her closest friends turned their faces away, ashamed to be associated with her disgrace. And then, as the chaos raged, Olumide turned to Ife. The poor maid, still trembling, could not believe what she had heard earlier. Her lips quivered. "Baba, me? Your heir? Your daughter?" Olumide's eyes softened for the first time. He reached out his hand and lifted her to her feet. "Yes, Ife. You who had nothing but gave everything. You who prayed when others plotted. You are proof that love is not in relatives, but in the heart. From today you are no longer a servant. You are my child, my legacy, my pride." The hall erupted in shock. Some guests clapped, others gasped, but all agreed. Justice had been served. Eve wept, unable to stand tall under the weight of her new destiny. The once forgotten maid was now the daughter of a chief and the heir to an empire. The greedy family, once arrogant and proud, now knelt in dust, stripped of everything. The news spread like wildfire. By the next morning, headlines screamed, "Chief Olumide disowns family at his own funeral." Markets buzzed with gossip. At street corners, elders shook their heads. "What a shame," they said. Children who could not honor their father while he lived. Kunle could no longer walk freely. Wherever he went, people mocked him. Bisi was whispered about at offices and banks, her name stained with disgrace. Dio's friends deserted him, ashamed to be seen with a man who had plotted against his own father. Clara hid behind closed curtains, unable to face the society she once flaunted her jewels before. The Olumide family name, once shining with prestige, now dripped with shame and dishonor. Meanwhile, Eve's life transformed overnight. No longer did she wear the faded uniforms of a servant. Olumide took her by the hand and introduced her to business leaders, chiefs, and community elders. "This is my daughter," he declared with pride. Eve, once ignored, was now the center of respect. Tailors rushed to sew her elegant gowns, drivers opened car doors for her, and those who once looked down on her now bowed their heads. Yet through it all she remained humble, her heart trembling at the weight of responsibility. "Baba," she whispered one evening, "why me?" Olumide smiled. "Because true love does not hide when it has nothing to gain, and the world must learn that loyalty is greater than relatives." The greedy family made desperate attempts to reclaim their image. Kunle begged lawyers to challenge the will, but the recordings Olumide revealed were undeniable proof of their betrayal. Bisi tried to blackmail Ife, but her threats collapsed when society turned against her. Dio drowned himself in nightclubs, but even music could not silence his shame. Clara sought refuge among relatives, but none welcomed her. They too had seen the recordings. One by one their masks fell away, leaving them stripped, hollow, and despised. The very wealth they once worshipped had slipped from their hands like dust in the wind. On the 40th day after the funeral that never was, Olumide gathered the entire community once more. Standing before the crowd with Ife at his side, he spoke with a voice both stern and tender. "My story is not just mine. It is for every ear that hears. Children, honor your parents, for greed will bury you before passing away does. Wives, guard your loyalty, for betrayal is toxic to the soul. And to all, remember this. Love is not measured by inheritance but by sacrifice. Wealth fades, but truth endures." His words rang like thunder, echoing deep into the hearts of everyone present. Even those who had never betrayed anyone felt a chill, as if they too had been warned. The sun dipped behind the hills as drums began to beat softly in the background. The greedy family, once mighty, now sat in the shadows, forgotten and disgraced. Eve, the once poor maid, stood tall, her head bowed in humility, but her spirit strong. She had gone from servant to heiress not because of anything but because of loyalty. Moral lesson. A family without love is a coffin without a body, empty, hollow, worthless. But loyalty, even from a stranger, can raise a kingdom. Dear viewers, you just heard a story that carries a powerful lesson, one that could change someone's life, open a mind, or heal a heart. But if you walk away without liking, sharing, or subscribing, it's like silencing the voice of our ancestors who passed down these tales. Don't let their wisdom fade. Don't be the reason the next person never hears this message. Like, share, subscribe. Let the story live on. Thank you for watching.